For many fans, celebrities are like gods, and they often treat them as such. But when some fans don't get the same love back, they take their frustrations out on them, which can sometimes result in their deaths. Sadly, there are too many cases. Did you know that their fans killed a few celebrities? Keep watching to find out more. Firstly, Selena. Selena was a songwriter and quickly gained popularity on the world stage. Sadly, she was killed by the person running her fan club, Yolanda Saldivar. Selena died at the young age of 23 on March 31, 1995. The Times explains that Selena had become friends with Saldivar. Soon after, she founded the fan club in 1991, became Selena's assistant, and then manager of her clothing line. Selena eventually discovered that Saldivar had begun embezzling the company's money, so she fired her. Selena agreed to meet with Saldivar at the Days Inn to claim back the money and finance records. It was at that meeting that Selena was shot. When the police arrived, there was a 9-hour standoff, and finally, Saldivar surrendered. She was sentenced to life in prison, but for protection, she has served most of her time in confinement. Next, we have Rebecca Schaeffer. Why her death inspired a new policy.
It's not like we know each other real well or anything.
Annie, I mean, come on, would you get yourself together? I mean, aren't you liberated or anything?
Liberated enough to tell you where you can get off, buddy!
The murder of this young actress had lasting legal impacts. She was 21 and in a TV show, My Sister Sam. She was killed in her home by a fan named Robert John Bardo on July 18, 1989. The LA Times said that Bardo stalked her for at least 3 years. Before the murder, Robert sent her many letters and attempted to meet her on the set of her sitcom. As soon as his advances were unanswered, he spent money on a private investigator to find out where she lived. He then visited her and ambushed her at her home. There have also been reports that he had the book Catcher in the Rye, but he denied that John Lennon's killer was his inspiration. Later, a law was passed to protect people's addresses, and the DMVs were no longer allowed to disclose them to anyone. And now we have Dimebag Darrell. Darrell was a former guitarist for Pantera and was killed on stage at age 38. The killer took this man's life on December 8, 2004. Nathan Gale was a super fan of Pantera. He also happened to be a former football player, and he was in the Marines. People would describe Nathan as a good guy, but then something snapped. His one-time friends recalled that he even thought he penned some of the band's songs. He was off his rocker. He said they were his songs, that Pantera stole them from him, and that he was going to sue them, said Jeremy Bray, a former friend. When Pantera broke up, he blamed Darrell. The day he killed him, he tried to rush the stage many times before the day he killed him and kept saying, "You broke up Pantera." He killed the guitarist and 3 other people before being killed by a police officer. Next, we have Albert Ebosse. Albert was a soccer player for Cameroon. It was reported that a group of fans in Algeria murdered him after a match in 2014. The Guardian says that fans began throwing things when the striker and other players left the game after their loss. They were hit with projectiles, and the object thrown at Ebosse hit him in his head and dented his skull, killing him. However, that story has been questioned. There was an autopsy completed, and according to The Guardian, a new autopsy has claimed that Ebosse was stabbed and brutally beaten to death in the changing rooms. It was concluded that he suffered from other causes than head trauma, including a cervical vertebrae rupture, which could mean there was a struggle. There could still be more from this story, and it may not have been a fan, but it has yet to be determined. Now we have John Lennon.
Help me! Headphones! Help me! Help!
The saddest part about his death is that it was for no reason. A reason should justify not that murder. Mark David Chapman killed John Lennon on December 8, 1980. It was said that Chapman was a fan, but wasn't an obsessed fan. It was some sort of religious awakening that led him to the murder. It was supposedly because of something that he heard in Lennon's lyrics. Furthermore, he thought he would become famous because he killed someone famous. So before Lennon's murder, he asked for an autograph. He got one, and then he went back to kill him, all because of the sad reason he wanted fame. It turns out that he got somewhat famous, more infamously renowned. He said that this was his motive. He was up for parole for the 9th time in 2016. He told the board, a true sociopathic mind, and wanted to shoot Lennon so that Chapman could be a somebody. Not surprising that the board rejected his bid for freedom. He tried again for the 10th time in 2018 and was again dismissed. Next we have Christina Grimmie.
No, I don't know that joke. Full throttle! I didn't get that. it was fun.
She was a star on the rise. She got her fame for being on The Voice in America and placed third during her season. As she started to branch out, an obsessed fan, Kevin James Loibl, murdered her on June 10, 2016 in front of shocked onlookers. People who knew Loibl were described as a loner and became obsessed with Grimmy. He would constantly watch her videos online, changing his appearance to look good for her. When he attempted to meet her, he realized that if he couldn't have her, nobody could. When Christina died, she was signing autographs for her fans, which is when Loibl approached her. Instead of asking for an autograph, he got out his guns and then he managed to get into the building and shot her. He was grabbed by her brother but managed to escape and killed himself. Sadly, she died a short time later. And now we have Andres Escobar. During the 1994 World Cup, Colombia lost to the United States. They were tipped to win. They lost in part because of an own goal by Andres Escobar. He tried to block the shot, but it dribbled past their goalkeeper. Sadly, this incident sealed his fate. While at a restaurant in Colombia, he argued with a patron. It, of course, was over the goal. During that argument, he was sadly shot multiple times. The Independent suggests that the patron shouted, "Thanks for the own goal," while he shot him. As a result of this death, the shooter was sentenced to 42 years in prison, but he was released after 11. He was a known gangster and was with other gangsters at that time, but he didn't snitch on them. His murderers were involved in drug trafficking and gambling. They placed money on Colombia to win and lost a lot of money. So for them, it was redemption. Finally, we have Gianni Versace. On July 15, 1997, fashion designer Gianni Versace was on his way home in Miami after getting a coffee. He was shot in the back of the head twice. The killer was Andrew Cunanan, according to the Times. He was only 50 years old. Andrew claimed that he met Versace a few years earlier in 1990 and said they were friends. The family denies these allegations. "I don't know that we will ever know the answers," Richard Barreto, Miami Beach police chief, said. This murder was the last for Andrew. He claimed the lives of 5 men. He killed himself 6 days later. How do fans turn? Whatever it may be, fans often have crushes that can quickly become obsessive. Before long, they send letters and strange gifts and potentially sit in front of their home and watch their every move. A lot of the heightened emotions can be from jealousy, rage, or anger. In a crazy fan's mind, they believe they are only meant for them and no one else. Sadly, this list was all too familiar. There have also been many who have been stalked, harassed, or someone has attempted to take their life. From this list, we can see that it can also be fatal. Could more be done? So far, the only law that changed was in part because of the murder of Rebecca Schaeffer. After her death, the stalking law altered and became a crime. In addition, privacy laws were introduced to protect driving records in California. Law enforcement and attorneys do their best to keep obsessed fans a safe distance away. The criminal offense of stalking in other states has also since changed. A unit in the Los Angeles Police Department has been formed to prevent stalkers from going too far by searching social media and sites for evidence. Although some policies are in place, more could be done as it is easier to gain someone's information online than ever. Were you surprised by the list? What do you think? Please leave us a comment down below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Remember to like and subscribe. Until next time.